right, cool. I think we're going to be going live in like less than 1 minute.
Okay. I was going to say it says live.
You're live? All right, cool. Now we're live on my end too. Perfect. All right, finally, technology, we won. Kelly, welcome so much to join me in this conversation. I've been seeing you on Instagram and been like, I just love your message. And I love the fact that you're so focused on like profitability and just a direct message and how important that is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, coming from my world, like I'm just a revenue person, right? And in the beginning of my career, I'm like, revenue. I gotta make more money. I gotta produce like bigger numbers. And in reality, it just got me into bigger trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had less of a bigger piece of a pie. And so I love your message and I love how you really talk about the numbers. And I just take us, my viewers who don't know who you are, take us into like exactly how you got into the coaching realm and the coaching world and what you did as a salon owner and what you currently do.
Yeah. I started off like anyone. I was an apprentice. I went to work through a salon. I did independent for a year. That was not for me, did not love it. Decided to open a small little salon and I had no idea what I was doing. And honestly, those first few years, I kind of hated it. And so I found this contest. Actually, it wasn't a contest, it was a class in New York with Nick Arrojo. And I went to that class. He announced a contest. And I decided to enter it. And just long story short, a year later, 500 participants, I won the contest.
Get out of here.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was wild. And, from there, I got part of my prize was that I got to mentor with Nick and his mentors and learn from him. And so it really helped to shape my business. But what I found, kind of like what you were saying, with revenue is that you go into those settings and you can be sold just the biggest eyes of potential. And so you can come back and do a lot of damage. And I realized, I wanted to have just a beautiful neighborhood salon that gave me a really good life. I didn't need the big revenue, but I did need to understand the numbers. And from that, a lot of opportunities presented itself and people started asking me about my business because they were starting to see it flourish. They were starting to see it successful, me enjoying it. And people were just naturally asking me what I was doing. So I wrote a book that then was pretty generalized. So people.
What was the name of the book?
Scissors Make Sense.
Okay.
Yeah. Scissors Make Sense.
On brand.
That was the original. And from that, people would read it. In a book, it's pretty generalized. It's hard to speak to one person when you're talking to everyone. And so from there, a lot of people would reach out to me individually and want to work on very specific things in their business. And so that's how coaching began. And it's really funny to sit here today sometimes and tell this story again and think of how far it came from just a book and some one-on-ones on Zoom to full-blown programs. It's really wild.
Do you have a group coaching program, or you do one-on-one mostly, or how do you orchestrate yours?
I have a little of both. So I have a evergreen version of a 12-step blueprint for running a business. I like to think of what I do as more like the person who comes in and takes everything out of your pantry, gets rid of anything expired, puts it all back with like neat baskets and labeled and, just very organized for you with your systems. And that one is evergreen, pre-recorded. I do offer it once a year live, and I'm getting ready to do that in January because I have some people that want the accountability. And then for the subjects that are in there that are a little bit more difficult, specifically financials, I do a one-on-one package for that to kind of walk people through it and really almost do it for them.
Because we come from two different worlds. And in terms of like our coaching backgrounds, like I said, I'm revenue driven, you're profit driven, you're like analyzing the numbers. It's like, which one do you have to focus on first? Because sometimes people get so inundated with the numbers, but yet they have no business. Like, great, you're organized. You're only doing 20,000 a year. It's not that hard to be disorganized at that level.
Right.
And then from your experience with people, where's that balance fall into? Like, is it ongoing, like build and then fix, build and fix, or fix it as you're building? How do you help somebody who's like on a fast track? Like, you, let's say, left the salon and she's on her own now. She opened up her own 4-chair salon. She's crushing it. She's making more money than she ever has before, but she has no idea where the money's going.
Yeah.
How do you help that person?
Yeah. And that's a great question. No one's ever asked me that before, but really and truly, it comes down to understanding what it takes to run your business. If you are making a ton of revenue, but it's not meeting your goals, and your goals should include taxes, profit, owner's distributions, your operating expenses. It should include everything. And a lot of times people don't even know what it takes to actually run their business. I've worked with businesses that are bringing in so much money and yet they're $50,000 short for making what their goals should be. And so I think it starts with just really having a true full understanding of exactly how much money your business needs to function and operate, including profit, owners pay, taxes, all of that type of thing.
Nice. So have you ever heard of the theory of constraints before?
No.
All right. So the theory of constraints is typically, it's a book. I forget who wrote the book, but it was like more or less for a factory, but it applies to every business. So when I look at a business, I take a look at the constraints on the business. What's the one thing that if we fixed would solve 80% of the issue?
Mm-hmm.
And so let's focus on getting that fixed.
Mm-hmm.
So for a lot of people, they don't have clients or they don't have a staff.
Yeah.
Or they're in the wrong business model. Like you're in a chair rental model for a salon, but in reality, you're not able to profit because you're barely covering the rent. So a commission model might be better for you. And so we got to take a look at exactly those three areas. But then what is it about one of those areas in particular we have to fix? And so from a client standpoint, clients are coming in the door, but you're not charging enough, or you're using too much product, or you're paying too big a commission. And so when you take a look at the theory of constraints, this is where someone like you would pop in because you're so good at the numbers and you're like, all right, here's all your numbers coming in. Here's all your money going out. This number right here, you're neglecting. And so that's kind of like what I like to look at. And because there's a whole conversation today about independent stylists and 1099s and that whole ordeal. Mm-hmm. Payroll tax, because you brought up tax, is a huge expense. And from my standpoint, and I sat with accountants and lawyers and talked to them, if I'm able to form, there's a couple ways to do the strategy, a partnership from LLC to LLC, from the owner to that particular stylist, they form their own company. You could join like a profit sharing type partnership with them based on their revenue, their book, or you do like a staffing agency model of it. But it's that payroll tax that a lot of people don't even take into consideration when they're looking at their profits. Mm-hmm. And there are other tax liabilities they're obligated for. And then on top of that, they get put into a little bit of trouble. How do you help prepare people, being that it's the end of the year right now? And this is something that someone who's new in the business probably just neglected for the last 12 months because it is your first year and you have no idea what you're doing. Right. Like, how do you take someone from not having an idea, now it's their first year? What kind of baby steps do you give, or what kind of advice do you give to somebody listening right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's really what is measured can be grown. It's learning to know your numbers. And so I use kind of a basic breakdown of profitable percentages, and then we have to tweak it. That's when I get into that one-on-one work. So I can give them kind of a base guideline of like, this is a benchmark, but it's going to be different for every individual. And so for me, I am a commission salon with payroll taxes. So that's something that's really important for me, is understanding those payroll taxes and what percentage of my revenue is going to that. And honestly, I start in my budgeting with payroll, but I actually reverse engineer when I'm giving them their plan. So we start with operating expenses because that's the information we know. We 100% know that information. So I have them list all of that out, figure that out. We use the profitable percentages and we work backwards. We add in the taxes, we add in profit, we add in owner distributions, and then we figure that with the payroll. So that's kind of where we start, is really just looking at exactly what those numbers are and using that information to price. And most people, I say, one of the biggest concerns, aside from not having enough clients, not having enough team, they're not charging enough. Most people are not charging enough.
What do you think that is? Mindset? Just unaware, or they don't know what they should be charging?
All of the above. I think a lot of times they open a salon coming from a place that they've worked at previously. And so their pricing worked for them there. And it's like, okay. And they're scared to change the pricing too much because they don't want to lose their clients. But what they don't realize is they're sacrificing themselves for their business. And no one goes into business to be held hostage to it or to not make money. That's the whole point we go into business.
Freedom. So everyone talks about that number. I want to make $1 million, but if you're not profitable at $1 million, what good is making $1 million? Because you're still married to the business. A lot of salon owners, you have to work behind the chair in order to make money. And that's a reality for, I would probably say 85+% of all salon owners. If they ever step back from behind the chair, their salon would fundamentally fail. And it just comes from an inability to train the team. I feel like if they don't have a team who can really deliver while they're out of the salon's not going to be able to deliver for the clients that are walking through the door. And then on the other side of it, they're paying too generous a commission. If you have W-2 payroll tax you got to pay, and you're covering any kind of other expenses for them, it's really difficult to come up with those numbers. But those percentages, like you were talking about, that's how you scale. Because if your percentage of profit is 30%, what do you think the average salon is right now, by the way? 8 to 12 is what I'm always understanding, pretty much.
Yeah, but I hear 8 to 12 is like standard, but most of from my experience and who I'm working with, none of them are profitable. They're not even paying themselves.
Really?
A bunch. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So if you
have huge revenues, some of the revenue is huge. And they're just like, I don't understand. I see all of this money coming in. I know there's money coming in, but they're not managing it. I talked to one, I don't want to like throw anyone under the bus, but I talked to one owner the other day, and they were just like, whatever cash was coming in, the owners were splitting that between them as their pay. They weren't entering. It was just like, they were just taking the cash. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like you can't do that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I have a lot of partners in my program, and I want to actually create something separate just for partners. And a lot of partners, and you could say if this is right or wrong, or I'd love to hear your opinion on it. They pay themselves a W-2 as a W-2 employee, when in reality, they could form almost like their own little management company as an LLC, and then pay themselves as a manager out of the company or out of what they're doing behind the chair.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that the partners, if they're working behind the chair, maybe a small percentage should stay into the salon, but the rest of that should go in their pocket, and the salon itself should be making money to drive that engine forward.
Mm-hmm.
You agree with that?
I do agree with that. And I try to explain to them they have two separate roles. So if they are working behind the chair, they should be paid as a stylist because they're working as a stylist when they do that. And then the other role is you're an owner in your company. So if I had someone who was full-time behind the chair, I am not. So I salary myself and then take distributions on the success of the business. But, I'm like, you have two roles. So you're going to pay yourself just like you would your stylist, and you're going to put yourself into that when you're factoring in, your price per hour of what your business needs. And then we're going to give you an owner's distribution. But they're both based off of production. And that's where I think a lot of times owners feel like, well, I know a lot of owners just take 100% and they don't put it back into the business, and it's like, you can only take from your business the health that's in the business.
Yeah. So when it comes to these numbers, like the words like distributions and all of this different verbiage that people get scared of, how simple is it? Like people overcomplicate it so much. The simplicity of running a business, because people are afraid of numbers. Do you have like a vocabulary sheet for people?
Yeah,
they go through
profitable percentages. And I tell them, I'm going to teach you like you're 5 years old, because I don't want to assume you know anything. And if you do know it, consider it a refresher. But, I start with the word revenue, and we just go all the way through and break it down.
So when it comes to LLCs, S Corps, that whole structure, you would give them any help with that?
I don't go deep into that. No, okay. It's a little bit beyond, hopefully if they're coming to work with me, they're already one way or the other. Yeah.
Cool. Where do you see retail falling into this? Like with salons nowadays?
I'm a huge fan of retail. I think it's really, really important for many reasons, even just outside of dollars. But for me, I also did work as a stylist in a salon for a very long time, and I hate selling retail. So, I just was never good at it. And I have stylists who are incredible at it and some who aren't. So for me, I like to structure everything within the business as if we were doing our cheapest service every hour. And then I know I'm going to be successful. So everything that we do on top of that, that is more expensive, that's an add-on, a luxury service, retail, all of that is just gravy on top of, knowing that if every single person in my salon charged my cheapest price point and only did haircuts, we would still be successful. Meaning,
I like that model.
Then, oh yeah. And then everything's on top of that. So I let retail kind of be for the hell of it. And we just incentivize and make it fun, and they do it and they like it. It's just a little friendly competition for them, but it's not, for me, a requirement for them to level up or an area where I'm going to discipline them if they didn't, or coach them if they didn't.
Yeah. I make retail. I try and make it fun for them, but my team doesn't sell retail like I want them to, and I know they could.
Right.
because they rely on the online store.
Mhm.
So I saw the constraint in the salon world that people were going online to buy. So I created the online extension of my salon.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times they're like, oh, you can order that online. It's easier for them to say that. So having that Shopify extension for my website just makes it so much easier. And
Yeah.
it got to the point where actually Salon Centric, my rep probably isn't watching this, but I don't even deal with them anymore because I couldn't tell them, like when I gave them my retail numbers, they cut me off
Mhm.
because we're doing so well in retail online.
Wow.
We were doing more in retail than we were in services.
Wow.
And then they did, I guess I was competing with their online brand called hair.com and they didn't like that. But retail for so many people, they don't look at it as a revenue driver.
Right.
When it's so beneficial for a salon
Yeah.
just to do it.
Revenue driver, but it's also, I mean, it's more than that too. If you use it very strategically as a tool in your business, I get education through my company. I get
points, all that.
rewards, free stuff, minis for the holidays that I can sell. And so it's just really being very strategic about the partners that you're choosing to work with and what they have to offer. But you can double down quite a bit, which, in terms of, it's not the revenue booster as much, but it's the bottom line booster.
It does. When people ask me about retention rate and the connection between the bottle of shampoo or the hairspray or the product they sold their client, when that client reaches for that shampoo in the shower, they're thinking of you when it's empty. Yeah. Now, if you don't sell them that shampoo, they're thinking of Ulta or they're going to think of the drugstore. So it's so important that if you're watching this and you're a stylist and you just went to a suite and like retail wasn't for you because 10% doesn't really excite a lot of people. On a $20 bottle of shampoo, $2 isn't that exciting, but it's the retention rate and the connection and diagnosing the problem for the client that you have to really be conscious of. But now that you own a suite, that $20, 10 of it's yours.
Right.
So, built in some sales tax and other shit you got to add in there. But for the most part, if you do $500 a week in retail, that's going to be $250. Yeah, it's $1,000 a month. That's pretty much going to be your rent. Do you work with a lot of suites at all? Or mostly salon owners?
Oh, I mean, my programs I do. In my salon, we're 100% commission. In the programs I have, definitely, because it's just small business training at the end of the day. I mean, it has some nuances that are very hair specific, and there is a whole commissions section on how to build your commissions. But otherwise, it's really just how to set up structure and run your business like a real, instead of a hobby, like a real
business.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we always have, at least I bring it up, 3 hats that you wear as an owner. And in our industry, you have the artist, the manager, and then the entrepreneur or the leader. And we get stuck wearing that artist hat. And we think like a stylist. You open the salon, you hated your old owner because it did things the way you didn't like. Now you're so rebellious against that way of doing things when they had to do it that way to be profitable. Where do you sit on on the coaching spectrum of helping them get over the mindset of being that type of owner?
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people are really loose with what they pay in commissions and how they handle their finances. And a lot of it is just beliefs.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I use the word, or can I give you some tough love, a lot. So, I always ask permission for it, but we do handle that in coaching. And, a lot of times the number one problem is the owner is in their own way. So yeah, I mean, I address that a lot in coaching, and I just first and foremost say, are you open to some tough love? And they'll say, yeah, that's what I'm here for. Now, whether or not they then take that and go use it, that's on them. But I'm certainly not afraid to shed light on the situation.
What are you thinking of, like the recession of 2025 people talk about?
Ask me that again.
Like the recession of 2025, like the salon recession that's going to happen the next year or so. What are your thoughts on that? What's your opinion on it?
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot of it because I just don't involve myself with the idea of recessions. I have such a solid system. I just talked about this the other day in my stories. I have such a solid system financially that the way that we have everything structured and our growth plan, I don't have to worry about those things. So I'm not attracted to the next shiny thing. I don't worry about recessions. I don't worry when product increases because I'm so focused on growing the stylist that we are always as a business growing.
You build a team, the team builds a business.
That's right.
I've seen so many people in the last, I've been doing this for so long now, but you said shiny object, and like now the spa or the head spa is a big thing. And if you want to open one up, that's great. But I think a lot of people open a head spa because their salon isn't profitable yet. Mm-hmm. and they're just opening another business that's not going to be profitable, and it's going to be more expensive for them to run, and they're going to just go more in debt. And there's always these new gimmicks and new trends that are happening in our industry. And it's so crazy that we have such potential, because in the same town, you could have one salon that's profitable, doing $1 million a year, and then right down the street, salon's about to lock their doors and shut down forever.
Mhm.
And the only thing different is the person's mindset and beliefs that they can do it. So it's such a great industry, and
Mhm.
like, you're successful. Anyone help you out? Like, you did it all on your own, right?
Yeah.
You didn't have your parents' money. No one gave you money to start a restaurant or a business or anything else, or the salon itself. And we have the ability to start as a stylist behind the chair, and then work your way up to being an owner, and then eventually build other people up.
Mhm.
And it is 100% possible, because I get in conversations, because I do a lot of I talk to everyone who follows me. I reach out, say thank you for following. I try and engage with them and just get an idea like what's going on in their business world and with their salon. And so many people just are not making money.
Yeah.
It's wild to me
Mhm.
that then someone like yourself could just easily create a system, put it in place. And it's not revolutionary. Like, what you're doing is, it's organized, it's structured.
Yeah.
But if they just put a little work in and got a book, and then maybe a couple conversations with ChatGPT, they'd be able to kind of put some systems together for themselves. Obviously, you're going to time collapse your journey by working with someone like yourself, and which is awesome. But have you thought about writing another book?
Everyone always asks me that. And yes, I would actually write another book. I have a client of mine who is a writer for her career. And so she really works with me, and we might be working on something else.
How, do you use ChatGPT at all?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For
Have
everything.
you ever ran like a P&L through it?
That's funny. No, I haven't, but I actually have had people buy the profitable percentages where I've got the checklist and everything. And it really leads to like working with me one-on-one, because a lot of people, it's just over their heads. I've had a few take my profitable percentages and put it into Chat GPT and figure the system out. And I'm like, good for you.
Yeah. I'll run through, I put everything in ChatGPT,
Yeah.
but I'll run my whole year-to-date P&L that I get from my accountant. And I'll just ask it questions based on my numbers. If I
Mhm.
were to do this, if I did that, what do you think if I flash sale this at 20% off for like online, and then buy this product that's hot? Like, it's the conversations you have with AI are phenomenal. You'll
Yeah.
have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. I've replaced Google with ChatGPT. If I have a Google question, I take it there.
Yeah.
But it's funny that you're saying that you use it that way, where you're like, what about if I do a product for this and that? And I've never looked at the difference between someone who's revenue driven versus profit driven. And so like, that's something that I wouldn't, I mean, I could literally feel my body be like, ooh, like, I don't want to do
Yeah.
that.
Like, 'cause I want a flash sale, because I have so much inventory,
Yeah.
which is just such a shitty business model.
Yeah.
Like, selling online is great, and I have different areas where it's better than others, how I run that side of the business. But you have to like stock up on products a lot of times,
Yeah.
and the ones that are good. And then all of a sudden that trend goes, and then the product sits there. You got 3 pallets of shampoo that was hot a month ago, and now for whatever reason, the influencer came out and said it made my hair fall out, and now you're like, shit, I'm stuck with all this product.
Yeah.
You're like, what do I do? And it's been fun to do that. And I ask it now, having from a profit standpoint, if I have this loss leader, what can I upsell on the back end,
Right.
to make up the difference that I have better margins on?
Right.
And so how I almost went bankrupt was because I was just thinking money, 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 money. And now it's all about percentages of revenue and profit. Everything has changed to percentages for me.
Yeah.
It was just really fun, because I knew business, like I knew how to do business. And then you get stuck in that mindset of like, I got to make more, I got to make more, I got to make more, rather than I got to be smarter with what I'm putting out the door.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was guilty of that. I was definitely a more kind of person. And I was just always really unfulfilled. And I was in a therapy session, and I was like, I show my gratitude every morning. I do my journaling. I do all of these things, all the right things. But yet I just keep pushing myself and keep going, going, going. And she switched the word gratitude to contentment. And she said, when are you just going to be content? And I started just kind of inventorying my life, inventorying my business. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't need or want a bigger house. I don't need or want a better car. I love my business and the schedule it provides me. And there was just a point, and that's going to be different for everybody, right? It's, my level of contentment is going to be different than someone else's.
Yep.
And so it's like, but once you reach that, you have to find that fine line of like being the success that you want to be without hustle, 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 burn, burn, burn all the time just because you're trying to achieve some type of number. And that's where I am now, where I feel like I've really hit the sweet spot, And
It's
so
awesome, right?
yeah, it is. And I mean, my business is busting at the seams right now. And everyone's like, are you going to open another? Are you going to, are you going to expand? And I'm like, no, hell no. Like, I really like where I'm at and I could. And so I think there are some people, maybe revenue driven, who'd be like, you're crazy. Keep growing, keep pushing. And I'm like, my life is right where I want it.
No, that's freedom.
Yeah.
That's what you want. You want freedom. When I work with people, I'm like, listen, I'm a big goal guy. Like, I want big numbers, 200 million a year.
Yeah.
At any given time, if I'm at 20, I'm at 2, and I'm happy, you're good.
Right.
It's more about who you become on the way. You could ultimately open up 10 salons and run them effectively and profitably.
Yeah.
That's who you are. You don't have to do that. So it's who you become on this journey. So let's set, I'm big into Your Future Self by Ben Hardy. It's like you get pulled forward from your future self and those goals and those dreams. But if I get there, I'm like, you know what? I was cool at 20 million a year, or I was cool at 2 million a year.
Yeah.
And I had more time with my family. What's important to you? And so when I tell people, make the goals, because you want to build the businessman before you build the business plan, because there is a certain level of grit you have to endure in order to get there. And then once you develop that person, the vocabulary, the knowledge, you can do what you want. You could stop, you could scale. So it's totally up to you.
Yeah.
So you don't think ever another salon would be in your in the picture?
No, but I'm really focused on the coaching, and that's
Yeah.
really where I see the next pivot. So the salon is at a place where, I don't even have to be there. It runs itself. And what's really cool is my son works there now. So he's, front desk for me. And that's just a full circle moment to have your child working in your business.
How old is your son?
He's 21.
Does he want to do hair or just be in the salon business?
Neither. He's in college and needing a
Okay.
part-time job, but he likes it a lot. And I think, when school's done, he's into music and things. And so it's hard to get into that. So I think he wants to pursue the salon more full-time.
Yeah, my kids are little right now. So my daughter's 2 and my son's 9 months.
Yeah.
It's going to be 9 months. So
really cool
Yeah.
when to come into your business.
yeah, I want them to do, like, I'm not a big college person. I just don't. I think you can learn everything that you learn in college for the most part on your own, especially nowadays.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'd rather send them to like a really good elementary school and high school and get their fundamentals ironed out and solid, and then put them in their own business, or at least bring them into one of my businesses that I have.
Agreed.
Yeah. When it came to the salons, obviously I'm like more kind of guy. And then I have the 4 locations, 6 with the affiliates. And I'm like, shit. When I started coaching, I'm like, what a better business model. Like the margins are phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then with the online, like it was the whole entire production of getting the salons with the staff and the moving parts. The heat's broken in this salon now. The heat's broken in that salon now. I got the people coming in to fix them. And there's those little things that people don't plan for.
Yeah.
And it's a lot because
Yeah.
you just have more problems. So having a second location, it's great to build more people, but it's my whole vision changed.
Yeah.
But it's too late because I have all these leases now in my name.
I do have the 2 locations, but I agree with what you were saying. So I have 2 locations, and I don't want a third. But it was COVID that actually made me realize when we shut down. I had already put my toes into the coaching water, but just barely. And I realized that even though I have a phenomenal team, my entire life, everything that I've built is reliant on other people. It's reliant on people working for me. It's reliant on people, coming in and being clients. And I love that. I don't want to let that go. But I also was like, I need something that's just for me, that if I were to lose everything, I've still got some footing over here. And so that's when I decided to go all in on the coaching. And you're right. It really, it's a whole different ball game, but it's very different than brick and mortar. I've definitely had to learn a lot of lessons.
Oh yeah, it's wild. I love it. So I have something I teach called your personal economy. Have you heard me talk about that yet?
I'm not sure I have.
Yeah. So your personal economy, it's a combination of service, product, and knowledge.
Okay.
And for us, we're perfect in the industry. We do services, then we have products we sell, shampoo, conditioner, and then you have knowledge. So
Mhm.
whether you teach people how to grow a salon or you teach people how to cut hair or color hair, you can sell and package up the knowledge and the know-how that you developed over the course of 10, 15, 20 years of doing this, or you can teach people how to run a business like we do. Once you build a big enough community, you can then jump back into products and then sell them products, whether a shampoo or conditioner,
Mhm.
or online like I do, or affiliate marketing, and then you have your services. So no matter what happens, whether it's a COVID, whether your salon gets flooded or there's a hurricane, you still have products you can sell online to other people.
Mhm.
And you still have the knowledge that you can teach. And you can sell the course, go evergreen. And you could just not do the coaching, shut it down for a month, and then sell your course evergreen. So having that personal economy that I like to call it is so calming to like the nerves of running a business, because
Mhm.
you always have that what if this happens, people, what if they don't show up, what if the heat breaks, people down, obviously down this past summer, hurricanes, how many different businesses got wiped out.
Yeah.
And like as an owner, are you prepared for that? Do you have the 6 to 9 months set aside to cover your personal expenses plus your business expenses? Because a lot of times the landlord doesn't care. Like
Yeah.
your lease is due, you have to pay it. And so if you have two other spigots you can pull some revenue out of and some profit out of, then you're very much at peace.
Yeah.
And so you're doing you have your personal economy without even realizing it that you created it.
Yeah.
So
That's
I teach the camcorder method, which is fun because when you're doing it as well, but when you're teaching your team how to cut, how to color, if you love doing that,
Mhm.
obviously you're gonna have to scale back from behind the chair. And so if you're really good at teaching the techniques, why not film yourself and why not create an internal course for your team to learn from
Yeah.
so you can duplicate yourself and then open it to the public?
Yeah.
Why not make an extra 5, 10, 15, 20,000 a month? Because you know the numbers some people do online with their courses or no?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah. I break this down for like a lot of owners who like, what do I do now? Like imagine, and they hate social media. Like, I don't want to post. I think it's stupid. I'm like, let me break some numbers down for you. And so the numbers I break down, it's imagine you built the following of 250,000 people. Imagine 1% of 1/3 times 1%. That's 825 people.
Yeah.
Imagine 825 people paid you $97 a month. $80,000 a month.
Yeah.
They're like, no way. I'm like, yeah, there's a girl who's 25 teaching highlights right now that's doing that.
Yeah.
I'm like, so why don't you like social media? It's like the ability for us now in our industry and like the fitness industry, I feel are the two who are really capitalizing on this.
Yeah.
Now you're starting to see like PTs and doctors and chiropractors and everyone's jumping into it. We had the foothold though in the beginning.
Yeah.
How did you like, because you have great social media content. I love it. And I love a lot that you do. What got you in like really diving into social media? What kind of mental blocks did you have in the beginning for posting? And do you still have them?
Yeah. Yeah. There was a girl on my team. She was really big into social media. And so her excitement got me excited about it when I brought her on. This was years and years ago. And we were just always testing and trying all kinds of different things and like coming back to each other. And she really excelled. At that point, I was more business than I was hair. And so it was like I was reviving an old hair page, whereas she was just straight solid hair. And for us, it was just about experimenting. And every day it just got a little better. In fact, I love to go back to my very first post as a coach and look at it. It's like a little picture of me and it's like success tips. And it's and I love to look at that compared to where it is now. I mean, it's like such a huge transformation. I don't even look like the same person, but that's just it. It's just every day do something because by doing it, you're going to learn. And I think the biggest problem that people have, because my stylists don't like it, I mean, and I don't force it. I put a thing up the other day, like, do you force your stylist to do it? And I don't. But I highly encourage it and I coach on it. And a lot of them, I think they get confused with what they consume versus what they would be putting out. And I think that they hate social media because of what they're consuming. And it's like, get on, do your job and get off. Like, stop consuming, the politics and the grumpiness and the whatever. Like, stop consuming it and just get on and do your job. I get up every morning at 8 o'clock. I do what I need to do, and then I'm done with it. And I will, engage back and forth with people. But in terms of just sitting there and like mindlessly scrolling, I try really hard not to do that. I'm constantly engaging with people who are engaging with me.
their algorithm is a result of what they're paying attention to, though.
I know.
And so if you don't like your algorithm, then you have to have a little conversation with yourself because you're watching this shit for too long and giving it attention.
Yeah.
So it's a good reflection of what it is you're putting in your mind. I love my feed.
Yeah.
Like you're in my feed, Hermosi's in my feed, Gary V's in my feed. Like I learn. Like
Yeah.
I scroll and learn.
Yeah.
And so they have to change what they're spending time on. And
Yeah.
there's things I block. Like I block a lot of shit.
You know, it's not even learning, it's inspiration. I get a
Yeah.
lot of inspiration from people.
Ton of ideas from that. What so you don't put like you don't make your team do it. I can't make your team do anything.
No.
But when they come to you like, "Ah, I need more clients, I need more of this."
Yeah.
That's when you drop you could post more.
Yeah, I'll give them an entire strategy, and I'll tell them to do it, and they'll sit there and say, yeah, that sounds so good. And then they get home, it's just all the distractions, and people will say they don't have time or they don't have money. That's what you're going to hear most of the time. And it's just, this isn't a priority to me. Because typically if there's something we really want, we find the money. If there's something we really want to do, we find the time. But the biggest excuse is just, when I get off work, I've got the kids, and then we've got soccer, and then we've got this and that. And what I had, you asked me about hurdles that I had to get over too, is like anytime you do something in the beginning, it's going to take you longer because you've got to learn a little bit about it. And so, but now I can get in and out 5 minutes, it's so fast how I can get a piece of content made, put together. I have a content bank that I can just pull from, plug and play. It's so easy. But in the beginning, it does require some work up front. And a lot of times they don't want to prioritize the time to do it.
Do you use Opus Clip or anything or any AI tools?
Yeah, I've used Opus Clip.
It's oh my God. I used to have a business before I opened my salon. It was more of like a MMA action sports website. I tried to monetize, and that's where I got my experience on creating websites at. And it would take me hours to edit a video. Like I was just at one of my coaching calls today with one of my groups. They were just asking me a million questions about editing and software. I'm like, guys, you do understand, like I've been doing this for 20 years.
Right.
I've been editing stuff on Final Cut, Premiere. So I could just jump into a new software and pick it up in minutes. It's going to take you some time. But I did not have AI.
Right.
The fact that you could take your long form video, drop it in like Opus Clip or Submagic, or CapCut now does it, and get 20 different clips that you can mildly edit.
Yeah.
That's huge. That costs people 40 grand a month. Like I think Hermosi about a year ago, him and Layla were spending 20,000 each a month. Could be wrong with that number, but I substantially think Dan Martell is one of my other coaches. He's up there around like 40 something thousand a month what they spend on their marketing team. Like it's expensive. The fact that you can do it with an iPhone like this and like an app for no cost.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take any time. And your captions are written for you. It's so much easier now. When did you start posting content? During around COVID, when you started doing like the coaching content?
Yeah, it was just before that with the book, because the concept of the book came before. So just before that. So yeah, it's been 4 or 5 years now, which is incredible.
Do you market your book?
A little bit here and there. I did a lot when it first came out. It's been a few years, but yeah, it's in my stand store, and I put it in my content here and there, but not all the time.
I'm gonna have to order that book.
If you send me your address, I'll send you a book.
No, I want to buy a copy.
And I have a KPI tracker as well. So it's like it's a very simple KPI tracker, but for people who are not used to, it's like an annual journal. And it was really a tool that I made myself. And then people would ask me about it. So I just put the PDF out, and then eventually worked with someone to design like a journal. And it's like a yearly unmarked journal. So you can start it at any time.
I like that.
And it's just a very simple KPI tracker.
All right. So people, when they hear KPIs, key performance indicators,
Yeah.
they think of all the numbers. If you had to pick three key things to focus on for the beginner, the person who is like, they're a mess. You got to make it simple for them. What are the 3 KPIs that a salon owner needs to at least pay attention to right away?
Gosh, I mean, I narrowed it down to 10 in the book. I always start with number 1 is just where you were, right? So where you were at. So for me, can I include all of that in one? It's, year to date, month last year, month this year. And then I break that. I don't know if I can give you three. I break that down into service and retail to kind of see how that's going. But I'll do everything compared to either the last year or the last month.
Okay.
And then of course your new return clients, new in return, I think are so important to see where that retention's at.
So I would say, you say top line revenue,
Yeah.
your retention rate,
Yeah.
and then
And from there, I guess, because I kind of lumped all that together. I mean, for me, profit margin and payroll margin. I sometimes I think payroll margin is even more important than profit margin.
yeah. I
For
mean,
sure.
they're almost like two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
You need to know both.
Yeah.
Because I remember hearing on a video a while ago, businesses need to be above an 80% margin
Mhm.
in order to really be able to scale. Like, how's that even possible in our industry?
Yeah.
Like, it's just
Oh, I
because
like debunk that.
yeah,
I like debunking that.
it was more or less like if you have a product, if you're selling, like
Yeah.
it was more for like phone case companies.
Right.
They had to keep their margins up because then you have wholesale cost and you got the shipping cost and you got all these things that you want to be somewhere around that 80%.
Yeah.
But in our industry, a lot of us, like you said, we're working 8 to 12% profit margin.
Mhm.
When if they made one minor change, they can go from negative 4% to that 8%.
Yeah.
In a month or two. Literally, they could change just by making a few different changes on the dial. And so your book, Scissors Make Sense,
Mhm.
that would be the first step into like introduction of what you talk about, right? And it's still applicable today, even though it was written a while ago.
Right. And I'm working with her. I think we're going to update it and re-release it. I'm just going to read through to see what I've changed. Jazz the cover up a little bit because that girl doesn't look the same today. Nick Arrojo said that he would write me a forward for it this time.
I would?
So, yeah. So.
Are you still friendly with Nick?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I haven't seen him in a while. Yeah. I'd use his name a lot when I speak to owners and they're like, I can't find staff members. I'm like, well, you create content. How's that going to bring people in?
Yeah.
Nick Arrojo does it every Monday. He has his class that he does.
Yeah.
He's on camera all the time. People know. So I'm pretty sure people want to work at a salon.
Yeah.
Because he's putting out content out there. So just be the type of person that someone wants to work for.
Mhm.
And like a lot of my owners, like my staff never posts. All right, let's take a look at your page. October 23rd, 2022.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of owners, they don't do what they say they should be doing or what they say their team should be doing too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we talk about integrity a lot. That's one of our core values is who are you when no one's looking? What are you doing when no one's watching? Because it's easy for all of us to sit around and just give advice. And that's something that I really try to hold myself to. And also something that I think has really gotten me to where I am in my leadership and why I've had people with me for 10 plus years is because every day, I mean, it's not even just in my actions of like, am I doing what I'm asking? But it's also if they're coming to me and I'm feeling frustrated by something, I have to be real with myself. Like, well, would I be frustrated too if I was in their situation? And I have to really put myself to be able to see it, not just as the business owner, but like who I would be in their role. And I think that's really, really important.
I give my team, there's 12 questions I ask, and I do it every quarter, I would say now. I label them monthly, but I move them to quarterly. You could do them bi-monthly, and it's really a reflection on who I am as a leader, how am I showing up, and then what are they proud of that they've done.
Yeah.
And then for my end of year reviews, rather than me sitting down with them, taking a look at their numbers, I give them a series of questions. I got it down to 8. I might bring it back up to 12 too, but 8 questions they ask themselves to do their own review on themselves.
Yeah, I just did that.
Yeah.
Just did that this week. And they were so nervous. I think they thought I was judging them. And I'm like, if you can celebrate yourself, celebrate yourself.
Yeah. But I want you to be successful for you, not for me. I don't care about, like, it's great that you're adding to the salon, but are you happy?
Right.
Like, did you show up the way you wanted to in 2024?
Right.
And no one does, but it's your fault.
Yeah.
Let's fix it. It's not the end of the world. Let's do it in little sprints. That's how I like to do. I like doing like quarter sprints or week sprints or 2-week sprints. Like I'm like a 2-week, 1-week sprint kind of thing now.
Yeah.
Like, well, I'll just focus on just my meta ads now every day for like 8 hours a day, digesting either a course or information, going back through, taking a look at my copy, editing my pictures, and then getting that ready to go.
Yeah.
And then next, what am I going to do next week? What am I going to do the week after that? it's so much easier to digest than taking a look at all your KPIs and be like, all right, where do I start now?
Yeah.
It's just so much to look at. All right. So where can people find you on Instagram? Do you have a YouTube channel and a podcast?
Not yet. They're in the works.
YouTube. You a podcaster, right?
I've only done guest interviews.
Yes. Okay.
I haven't done my own yet, but
Okay.
everyone wants one, and it's in the works.
All right, cool. All right. So where they can find you on Instagram?
Yeah, so they can find me at Scissors Make Sense, and that's like dollars and cents, CENTS. I have a website, so you can find me there, and all of the links are in my bio.
Are you on your bio on Instagram? All right. Well, thanks for sharing this last hour with me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for
And I will drop this off the full. You get the full podcast on there and the live. But if you have any questions about numbers, I always say that I'm the revenue guy. I'm like the leadership. I'll get your Google business page optimized. I'll do all that shit to get you busy. I'll help you with some like the numbers a little bit. I don't enjoy it. I pay someone to do that for me. And so if you're looking for someone to really dial in your KPIs, the girl's right here. Is who you need.
Yeah.
All right. I look forward to reading your book too.
Thank you
I'm
so
excited.
much.
All right, enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks for spending time with me.
Yeah, thanks so much.
I'll see you later.
Okay.